Good afternoon, everyone. In the zone with Rich Sutter and Pete Coles, MVP Pete. We are rocking and rolling in the Final Four, folks. We have a lot to cover today. We've got a great slate of information for you today, right as we lead up into March Madness culmination, the Final Four, and then the final game on Monday night, which will crown the national champion for the year. The underlying stories we have at play here are the UConn Huskies pushing that sled all the way through, trying to get a repeat, a very rare repeat, which would be a huge stamp on the UConn basketball program for sure. Amazing. A good time we're living in, Pete. It's amazing. We're going to jump right into our NBA fish. But before we do that, we've been mentioning that you can follow us on Twitter at rsutter at 34286. That's our Twitter handle. We could use some followers, so jump in there with us. All we're doing is talking basketball, and we'll keep it clean. We promise. So lots of young children. We'll have some basketball tips in there. We'll have some really good stuff. Maybe some events over the summer. Folks are always looking for good camps and good places to send their sons and daughters for camp. So we'll have a lot of different information like that. But we're going to jump right off with our NBA Feed 'em Fish segment. It's our premier segment of the show. We love it. It is just a basic run through of everything that's going on in the NBA and the NCAA. And the Feed 'em Fish moniker is a tribute to a great gentleman, Mr. Sam Tolkoff, one of the great coaches out of the Bronx, Monroe. Okay, so we're right off, Pete. Philadelphia Freedom. The bells are ringing in Philadelphia because Joel Embiid has returned. His injury, the meniscus surgery, has been repaired. Looks good, and it looks good on the left side of the column for the Philadelphia 76ers and their faithful, especially heading into the playoffs with the big man healed, rested, ready to go in a playoff run. I think that's exciting. We have to go back and give you some information about the NBA playoffs this week because we got it a little bit crazy last week because the NBA is absolutely crazy themselves. But he's back. He had 24, 6, and 7 in a victory against OKC. Really good sign for the 76ers and their fans. Rajon Rondo has decided to retire. Great news for basketball fans. I actually thought that happened years ago. The Celtics have 7 games to remain. The Celtics have flown through the basketball season. Coach Mazzulla, certainly a Coach of the Year candidate, doing really good stuff with the Celtics. They also have a little bit of a fortuitous break in the schedule right now is because they played last night and won again last night, looking pretty good. But they also have 6 of their last 7 at the time I checked were at home. So they're basically have clinched first place. And now
coming in for some home cooking.
They're coming in for some home cooking, 6 or 7 at home, so they can get rested. A lot now, if I'm curious, and if I'm a basketball fan, I'm curious to see how the Celtics handle their load management right now. Because you've obviously got a chance to do it right now. You've eclipsed all metrics. You've won the whole thing. You're ready to go into the playoffs and possibly set up with a really good first-round opponent. So I think that's exciting for them. They really, have had a great season in Boston. They really have. A great team. They're obviously going to be the favorites to win the East Conference. Right now, I think I have them favored to take it all. Could be another banner to hang up in the Boston Gardens, which would be something special. Okay, we've got key races in the NBA to handle with you. All right, Houston slips. Houston slipped again. Now they're a good bit behind the Golden State Warriors, who've won 4 games in a row. Chances are dwindling with 7 games to go. They do have a game upcoming. I believe it might even be today or tomorrow. Golden State against Houston. That could help the Rockets kind of climb a little bit. Atlanta and Chicago are very close. Could flip, their 9 and 10 spot, so that might create a little bit of a playoff scenario that changes. And also, Cleveland Cavaliers have had a great season, and they're only a couple of games behind the Bucks. They're only a couple of games behind the Bucks right now. They could catch them. I don't know how realistic it is, but it's still within the realm of possibility. It hasn't been weighed out yet. LeBron eclipses Michael Jordan once again. A lot of records this man is accumulating. He now has 600, and this one's a pretty good one, 672 30-point games. Wow. That's amazing. That's amazing. Okay, the elimination. The Reaper has arrived in the NBA, and it's time to go home. You've had a good 82-game season, but there will be no playoffs for these franchises. It's time to go, and mathematics has decided. Here they are, Pete.
Okay.
Toronto, Charlotte, Washington, and Detroit, and I think soon to be the Brooklyn Nets. They're still holding on mathematically possible, but it's not going great. It's not going great. They had about a 4.5 game gap between them and the Atlanta Hawks. That went to 5.5 at one time. That's not good if you're 4.5 and you have 10 games left and you start going in the other direction.
Yep.
So that makes it a little bit harder. Over in the West, we have Utah, Memphis, Portland, and Sacramento. Bye-bye, fellas. It's been a good season. We'll see you. Get your team ready for next year.
Take your paycheck and go home.
Yes, you also have the Rockets. You also have the Rockets waiting, just like the Nets, still waiting on elimination. They have not mathematically been eliminated. They're a little bit tighter to Golden State than the Nets are to Brooklyn. So keep an eye on that one. I wouldn't look too closely at that other one. I think that's pretty much done. All right, NBA play-in. Here we go, Pete. This is how they're handling it, and this is how we goofed it up last week. So we're going to come back, full mea culpa, Chris Stakes. We had a La Placa. Okay, we're going to clean it up. We're going to clean it up. All right? So conference winner number 7 plays conference winner number 8. It's crazy. Okay. I know. Follow along, fans. Don't turn us off just yet. Okay, the winner of that moves ahead and becomes one of the NBA play-in people. Okay, they get to join the rest of the 6 to form 8. 2 of these 4 have to come forward in order to get to the number 8. Okay? So you have 10. You got to take out 2. 2 get to live. Here's how they live. So the winner of that 7-8 game, exactly. But it isn't as bad as you think once we get to the end of it. The winner of the 7-8 game gets to advance and become one of the 8 teams that's going to be in the playoff structure. You have 6 teams that will be locked in. I don't think they're all locked in right now. Matter of fact, the Knicks are in free fall and could wind up being in a play-in game here if they're not careful. And so that's what we're talking about here is it's not mathematically established these positions yet. But what happens is the 7 is going to play the 8. That's the 2 best teams over there. The winner of that gets to go in. The 8 team then gets to sit out and wait to see who plays in that 9-10 game. The winner of the 9-10 game gets to play the loser of the first set of games, the 7-8 game. Are you still with me?
Yeah.
Is anybody still with me? Okay? What I should have said is I should have done it this way. The loser of the 9-10 game goes to the lottery. It's a fact.
Yeah.
They go to the NBA lottery. They become
you.
an NBA lottery contestant. They get the privilege of being in the lottery and maybe getting the number 1 pick. It's not bad.
No.
It's not bad. Okay? Now, what happens is you have to then say, we're giving the loser another shot in that 7-8 game. So they lost. The other team went in and joined them. Now you're still waiting for one of these 3 teams to emerge and join the rest of the 8 because only right now they have 7. So you play the 9-10 game. The loser of that game goes into the lottery. The winner of that game plays the loser of the first game. So the winner of the first game went into the playoffs. The loser sat out and waited to see who lost and won in the 9-10 game. The 9-10 game concludes. They get to play that winner. And the winner of that game goes into the playoffs. The loser of that game goes into the lottery. Does that make any sense at all?
And in the meantime, NBA says
they're cashing it. They're cashing it. But to me, generally, I would say, Pete, they're always in it for the money. They're always pumping that register. But they probably would have got the same bang for their buck if they went the other way. I don't know that this increases their revenue at all.
Yeah.
It may be. I'm sure they had a reason for doing it. It's actually kind of an interesting way to do it.
It's novel.
But, yeah, so as it stands right now, today, The 76ers would play the Heat in the 7-8 game. The winner of that game moves on to be the upper seed and move into the playoffs.
All right.
The loser of that game, let's say it's the Heat. They lose, just for ha-ha's sake. The Heat lose. The 76ers win. The 76ers go in to face the Milwaukee Bucks. They're in. They won. The Heat have to wait. Now the Hawks and the Bulls are going to play. The Hawks and Bulls are going to have a winner and a loser. The loser goes to the lottery. The winner gets to play the Heat. If the Heat beat the Hawks or the Bulls, they then become the 8th seed. If the winner of that game happens to be the Hawks or the Bulls in the 9-10 game and they beat the Heat go out and they advance to the playoffs.
Here's the only thing I see that's an advantage to that is that all these playoff teams are sitting for a couple extra days, and these teams are still playing.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
They're not. There's no rust.
It's a
And
bye.
if somebody catches fire, and some team gets hot, that could propel them, right through. But
Yeah, no doubt, 100%. And what happens also, Pete, is the wear and tear of these series start to go. So the more you play, the less chance you have of being fresh for that next opponent.
True.
Now, you can get hot, just like North Carolina State got hot. But in the NBA, it's more of a grind. 82 games, now you're at the end. Boom, you're going to play a 3-game series, or you're going to do this, that, and the other thing. I think this might have been an alleviation of some of that. So they didn't have to get boiled down in this huge series. They just got to kind of figure it out a couple of games at a time and then move on forward to the series sets. I'll give them their due. I don't know. But over on the other side, we have 8-7. You have the Kings and the Suns right now. That could change. And I think it did last night. I think the Suns went up into the 6th spot, and somebody's coming down. And the Warriors and the Lakers are going to play. And that'll be an interesting game. Okay? There's a fun fact out of Stat Mamba that I thought was interesting. Victor Wembanyama, right now, has more career blocks than 86.6% of all players in NBA history.
that's insane.
Unbelievable. We're going to close with one last little award that we have here. It's a good one. The Matador Award. This is the team that had the red cape out all season, let the offense go right through their defense like Swiss cheese, and they gave up the most points in the entire NBA. When you hear the number, I think you're going to be a little surprised, okay? We go with the Washington Wizards. There are no Wizards on defense. And the number is, ready? 122.8 points per game by average.
That's what they gave up.
That's what they gave up.
That's insane.
So the Matador Award goes to the Washington Wizards. Okay, Pete, we're going to slip right into the NCAA fish. We've got a little bit of a special feature for you today, so we're going to hustle and get through. We want to talk about the Final Four, of course, but we want to talk a little bit about NIT, women's basketball, and also we want to bring you our first NBA draft preview today, if we get there. Okay, so we got 45 minutes left about. We're in good shape, and we're going to rock and roll through this. All right, so NCAA fish, Caitlin Clark. Let's just start right off with women's basketball. It's exploding. It's good basketball, and it's fun to watch, folks. If you haven't turned it on yet, turn it on, because the LSU, I got news for you, the LSU-Iowa game just outdid a bunch of NBA games as far as coverage. Over 12 million viewers. Way to go, ladies.
Some NFL games, too.
Way to go. Now, Caitlin Clark, very, very much talked about, obviously. She's a great player, and so they're going to talk about great players. But for some reason, this young lady has drawn an awful lot of vitriol. This lady has everybody in the studios clipping her, okay? And I just wanted to jump into it a little bit because that's out of line. That's completely out of line. Now, you can make an assessment and you can make some differentiations, obviously, but some of the criticism of her has been absolutely out of line. So in the Feed 'em Fish, this is what we're going to feed all you ESPN newscasters and all of you other people out there who have the temerity to challenge this young lady. The temerity. How dare you, as Mike Tyson said, challenge her with your inferior skills? How dare you? Okay, here it is, Pete. 31.7 points per game, 8.9 assists. Number one in the nation on both of those. Did I say number one in the nation? Number one in the nation. 7.3 rebounds per game. Does it all. She does it all. And I think, the women's game right now is exploding. She's been a great ambassador. And let's be honest, folks, okay? If we're trying to grow something, for example, I planted something in my backyard, and then I picked up the potted plant and threw it against the wall, probably wouldn't have a great chance of growing. So the more you tear your own people down, the more you take your own people down, you're having a deleterious impact on your overall product. Caitlin Clark is the person of the moment right here. You should support it. You should go with it. You can be a little bit critical of her game if you want, but go ahead and find me the place. 31, 7 and 8. 8.9 assists. She tore up that LSU defense the other night with her passing. An amazing, amazing game. The women's Final Four is set. Iowa, UConn. Now, I swear to God, I have never really done a whole lot of following of college basketball, but this matchup of Caitlin Clark and Paige Bucher is going to be a good one, folks. If you're a basketball person, turn into that one. And in South Carolina, NC State. South Carolina, Dawn Staley, she's the new Gino. She's the new Gino. They have a new standard over there at South Carolina. They're absolutely doing a great job and really, really establishing dominance. They've been dominant, and that's something that's rare in this game. So, UConn and NC State, congratulations out to the Wolfpack and the Huskies. It's the year of the dog because they both have their men and women's basketball teams in the Final Four. Unbelievable. First time in history. This is rare, and it's been unbelievable. We talked about the ratings bonanza, and we talked about you don't need to tear something down in order to build it up. And that goes for a lot of things. Men's Final Four is set in the Fish. We'll give it to you. Alabama, Connecticut, going to be a great game. Right now, Connecticut is in hyperspace. Somebody's got to try and close that black hole. And Purdue, NC State is going to be an unbelievable game. We've got two Clash of Titans down there and two completely different styles where DJ Burns is a meat hook over the shoulder slash and burn, and Zach Edey is the big formula where he's got so many variables. He can hit you up a number of different ways. But the big formula and is going to have a tough matchup defensively. And if North Carolina State is smart, and I think they are smart because you don't get this far without being smart, they'll count the number of touches that Edey gets and go the same amount with DJ Burns. Get a similar amount of touches into him as DJ Burns because you want to make Edey play defense as much as you want to play the other guy play defense. The one thing I will say about Zach Edey, getting a lot of talk about some of the draft boards going up. What I will say about him is he's very, very good at avoiding fouls. He doesn't pick up fouls that aren't good fouls. He's out there blocking shots and doing things, but there's times he'll stay out of it because he knows how important he is to his team, and that's a high sign of intelligence. All right, the NIT final is set, and it's sold out. So the Final Four, to give them all a shout-out, was Seton Hall over Georgia. Seton Hall emerging 84-67. Mike White did a great job with his team as well, I thought. And I think Georgia's got an emerging program right there that's going to get hot and going to be really something solid in the future. But this Seton Hall team, Shaw Holloway, kudos. Everybody else didn't want to go to the NIT. They took their ball. They went home. I think it was a great situation for Shaw Holloway to get some extra reps with his team and showcase also Kadari Richmond, who I think should be on the NBA draft board. Hasn't been on a lot of them, but I think I agree with Jim Boeheim on this one. He belongs there. Indiana State took out Utah. Indiana State team is very, very good, showing that the NCAA tournament may have done the Power 5 East Street Shuffle on them and put them out on the porch because they wanted to include somebody with 14 losses. Okay. Utah, it was 100-90 in that game, 100-90 in the Indiana State over Utah game. That was a pretty good offensive game to watch. Right now, you'll have Indiana State against Seton Hall tonight. It's tonight. And it's the Las Vegas people think it's going to have a pretty close game, so tune in. So far, they've been really, really good. I wouldn't know who to pick in that one, folks. All right, so in our Portal Potty run, we're just going to take another quick look at this and tell you exactly where we are. Right now, we are at 2,251.
Wow.
Now, What I have to do is I have to find this because it's difficult to find some places. They don't exactly have a counter anywhere. I think they should maybe put up a counter like they do on the national debt and watch it go bing, 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 bing. But what I did was I just took a little bit of a formula. And what I did was I had to change my number last night because I had written this the previous day, gotten some of my information down on previous day, and then I had to go back and amend it, and I had to go back and correct it. And so what I did was I wanted to know what was the daily number. Okay, so right now we have 2251. That's 1393 in Division 1 and 858 in Division 2. If you add those two numbers together, they come to 2251. Now, I can't tell if it was exactly 24 hours ago when I looked at my first look at the portal numbers, or it was about 12, 14, 18 hours that I caught the next one. So I don't tell you how fast this is going, but it seems to at least represent one day. On one day, I had 2150. The next day, I went back and I had 2251. So that was a differential of 101 in one day. And so if you wanted to have an idea of what's happening there, you know, there it is. You got about 100 people a day entering the portal. It'll close soon, but that doesn't preclude anybody from going anywhere or anybody talking to anybody. You'll see plenty of that stuff happen. You're also seeing now, big surprise, that some of the coaches, and most notably mentioned in this report that I saw was Coach Pitino, might be getting some scrutiny now because they are contacting people before they're in the portal. So what I said to somebody that I saw, there was a young man. He's out on Twitter. He's excited. He's got some Division I interest. People are talking to him. And it was posted on Twitter before the portal opened. And it was a list of schools that he had talked to, that he went out on Twitter and said, I'm drawing interest from these schools. Listed the schools all the way down, and there were 8 to 10 schools. And I looked at, my assistant coach, and I said, I thought the portal didn't open till Monday. And so there must be a lot of this going on, and happening on all different levels as well, where coaches are having inappropriate contact with players, players having inappropriate contact with others. It's impossible, to legislate, because I'll give you an example. There's a player on St. John's or UConn or Providence, and he knows a bunch of other good players. He played with them in AAU, might have played with them in high school, or he might be from the same neighborhood. They might have played in the same Boys and Girls Club back home. But there's a lot of people, there's a lot of connectivity in basketball. And so a lot of this happens on the grassroots where the AAU coach, the agent, everybody gets involved, and they start making phone calls, triangulate the player out of it, just like they did with the coaches. Just like they followed the coach's model here.
Happens organically, right?
And the coaches have nobody to blame but themselves here.
Yeah.
They have nobody to blame but themselves. But let's run into our NBA Power 15, Pete, and keep it moving, because I do want to cover some of the Final Four, and I do want to cover the draft piece. The one thing I will notice, and I wanted to say thank you to everybody, thank you, is that in our first 3 days, Pete, our live coverages on Sunday night are doing really, really well. And over 100 views in the first 2 days that we came out with that live NCAA coverage. People are starting to click in because right now what you're seeing with mainstream sports media is it's gone the exact same way as regular mainstream media. It's under a control, and they're in a narrative more than they're in the reporting of what's going on. We're actually giving you real time, real stuff, what's happening, and so are a lot of other people out there, that are doing a good job. But right here in the zone, we're giving it to you straight. We're giving it to you straight down the line. Okay, Boston Celtics dominant, number one all year long, 59-16. It would be hard not to consider Joe Mazzulla for Coach of the Year in the NBA right now, but Ime Udoka, I want to give him a look too, because what he did with that Houston team was nothing short of miraculous. Denver Nuggets, 53-23. They've climbed into the number 2 spot. And you're going to see right here where the West Coast is kind of taking over our Power 15 at the top. The 1 through 5 here, are gone. We have the Celtics, and then you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 all the way down, and you got West Coast. So we got the Nuggets, and that's some of it. The Knicks have slid. The Cavaliers have slid. The East is having a little bit of a typhoon there, and we're getting some teams that are sliding. Some of it related to injuries. The Minnesota Timberwolves, I got to give them my surprise team of the year. year. Pete, I don't know if you have that clip that I sent you.
I do.
Okay, so this is our Noxzema section. This is in your face, as close as it can get, right up in your pores with this. And so this is our guy, Anthony Edwards, we've been talking about. Here is one of the great dunks of the year.
Edwards gets it.
Bow! Okay, that is our Noxzema section of the game. Anthony Edwards, you see, he also got hurt on that play and had to get out and actually just walks off the court with an injury.
Watch the replays,
serious. Hope it wasn't serious, but that was an unbelievable dunk, and that's in our Noxzema section. That's why the Minnesota Timberwolves are number 3. Catch this again. Look at this. There's defense here. There's everything. You should have just got out of the way on that defense.
Yeah,
He went up, he tried, and then he got hurt too on the play. Look, he came down and hurt and got kneed in the head. Some of the athletic ability of some of these players is absolutely amazing. Anthony Edwards is one of the young rising stars in the NBA. Ja Morant at one time was in that category. You have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander also in that category. Boston has a very young duo in Jaylen Brown and Tatum. They keep that together, they're going to be doing fine. Okay, so the Timberwolves and right now into the 4th spot, the OKC Thunder. Those are my 2 surprise teams. They both have identical records. They're both going to draw a little bit of difficulty in the first round of the playoffs, but amazing year. Number 5, the Clippers. The L.A. Clippers, they've done nothing but move up this chart all year long, and they've done an amazing job. Right now, the teams on our Power 15 with the most elevation right now are the Clippers and the Mavericks. They're both moving at a pretty good clip through this Power 15, and there's been a lot of at-bats this season, so it's difficult to move right now. It's difficult to move numbers right now. But we have the Clippers, and then finally we go back to the Milwaukee Bucks. All right, and I wanted to just stop here, go off, and talk about the Doc Rivers effect. Okay, Doc Rivers was brought in, and again, this guy's been around the block, so they kind of know what was going on here when they got him, but they took out Adrian Griffin, who was in his first year. He was in his first year, and he was 30-13 at the time they eclipsed him. Okay, they just took him out like an eclipse, the upcoming eclipse. All right, Doc Rivers comes in at 129-24. Okay, the day after your birthday, I believe, Pete, right?
Correct, yep.
Okay, so you got a 1, 2, and a 3 here. They've lost 5 out of their first 6. They're 15-15 right now, and they're just dropping, at an unbelievable clip. They also have, just really, really taken the last 2 losses they have been 2 in a row. They lost to the Wiz and they lost to the Grizzlies. And that's 2 of the worst teams in the league. Currently have a 41-112 record. They just dumped 2 games on them. So I don't think the Milwaukee Bucks are exactly pointed in the right direction this time. And I don't know what's going on over there. Cleveland Cavaliers 46-30. Pretty good job. They're doing all right. They've been another surprise team, but they've fallen a little bit. They've fallen. They're trying to get up. They're trying to figure it out, but they've slipped a little bit. But only because they had set such high heights in the beginning. They climbed really high, and it was only a chance for them to slip a little bit. Number 8, the Dallas Mavericks. Luka, 45-30. Kyrie, 45-30. They're forming chemistry. They're going to be a tough playoff matchup for somebody. New Orleans Pelicans, 45-30. Again, these teams have been all bundled up for a while, but the Pelicans, I don't think anybody would have put them over the Lakers, in this whole thing. I don't think anybody would put them over Golden State Warriors in the beginning of the season. And for them to be where they are right now is really, really telling to their team, to their coaching staff, and everything. All right, I moved the Indiana Pacers up because they're starting to click a little bit, 43-33. The issue that they had is they acquired Pascal Siakam in that Toronto Raptor fire sale. And when they brought in Siakam, who's a legitimate, very good offensive player, right at that moment, Tyrese Halliburton did the Peggy Fleming split and went out for 3 to 4 weeks, on top of that. So they didn't get to develop that chemistry that Pete and I talk about. But right now it seems like they're doing all right and they're cooking a little bit. So watch them in the playoffs. They have a talented team. The Sacramento Kings, 44-31, another team that's had a really, really good season. better than anticipated. Orlando Magic 44-31. The Phoenix Suns are 44-31. Amazing. They're climbing. I watched them last night. Kevin Durant is hitting shots from everywhere. I just don't think he has enough around him right now. Booker certainly is a great player, but they don't have enough up front. And that's why I scratched my head about the trade of DeAndre Ayton. I really didn't get it. Okay, you got the Knicks and the Lakers. The Knicks are falling. You know, like somebody dropped a rock off Columbia Rock in New York. They're about ready to hit the East River. And it's injury. It's only been injury. Right now, Jalen Brunson's been carrying this team around like Samsonite luggage, and it's going to take its toll on him as well. But I don't know that you get Randall or Anunoby back for the playoffs. And if that doesn't happen, they could get bagged up here. They could wind up in the play-in right there and could get bounced out of the playoffs very, very quickly also in that play-in. And then the Lakers come in 43-33. We go into our hot and who's not section, and it's going to be interesting to see some of the teams that are hot are the ones that are still alive, fighting for the playoffs, really have something to play for. And then when you look at the not side of this formula, you're going to see some teams that have packed it in. They're in the Baha Mar already. They're cashing checks still, but basically the season's over. Okay, so you got the Heat. They've won 3 in a row. The Sixers have won 2 in a row. And the Warriors stepping it up at the right time because they felt the Houston Rockets on their tail. They could feel that pressure coming from behind as the Rockets had won 10, 11 straight. You know, that's going to get anybody's attention. But they seem to have been able to hold that off a little bit. I think that the NBA has a little bit of favor on the Golden State Warriors there, as they do with the Lakers. I think they'd like to see them in the playoffs. The Raptors, 14 in a row. When we say fire sale, we mean fire sale. They traded everybody, left poor Scotty Barnes up there all by himself. The Jazz have lost 10 in a row. The Blazers have lost 10 in a row. Here's a 120 club for you, Pete. As we went to the Matador with the Wizards, letting up 122 points a game, these are 3 teams that joined the 120 club on the flip side. These are 3 teams that averaged over 120 points of offense every single night. And you're going to see that some of these teams are some of the better teams in the league.
Sure.
And offense does matter. Celtics, 120 points a game. The Bucks, 120 points a game. And OKC Thunder, also 120 points a game. That's a lot. Okay.
You used to think those were just video game numbers, but now those are everyday numbers.
Those are everyday I write the book numbers.
Yeah.
Okay. So we've been talking a little bit about the tournament, and I'll close with that. And I think it's going to be an exciting tournament at that as well. Good time of year, the Final Four, Easter, spring is coming. You're going to get some nice weather. Oh, I wish it came a little bit quicker this year so we could enjoy some of it. But right now we're looking at some about 4 inches of 3 inches of snow outside, maybe 2 inches of snow outside, hoping it goes away, but it's not going to save me from shoveling later today. So we're going to have to get to that, and do what we got to do, because the weather in New England doesn't always cooperate. That's one thing I've learned after living here. There it is. There's the outdoors. The weather does not always cooperate in New England, and that's no April Fool's joke right there, folks. That's no April Fool's joke right there. Okay, so we wanted to go into a little bit of, I was looking, what prompted this was I was on Twitter the other day with a whole bunch of crybabies going on and on and on and on. And so I just wanted to, rather than get onto Twitter and say, hey, you're a crybaby, stop crying, and really give them some hard love there, and try and turn them around.
Sure.
I figured, let's just let them be, and let's move on.
Yep.
And let's put out our own thing and our own positivity, and that this thing is never as bad as it seems and never as good as everybody makes it out to be. But at the end of the day, it's something we can all rally around and enjoy, and some of us even make a living doing. All right? But here's what I wanted to get after. The crybabies on Twitter, the NBA executives are all up in arms that this is not a great draft. This is not going to be a great draft. And I originally, at the beginning of the year, thought they could be right about that. But each draft is different. like last year's draft, at the top of it, you had some pretty good players that are going to be impact players, for a long time. Wembayana went number 1. Brandon Miller went number 2. Scoot Henderson went number 3. Amen and Osar Thompson filled out 4 and 5. Now, those gentlemen could all be good players in the league. Now, what happened after that was not that great. In the draft, not that good. There was some picks in there that you and I were shaking our head at.
Yeah, you were scratching your head.
And everybody was scratching their head saying, why'd they draft this guy? And some of that bore out to be true. Okay? So when you say last year's draft, yeah, it was great for the San Antonio Spurs, good for the Charlotte Hornets, because they got good players out of it. Mm-hmm. But it didn't stop San Antonio from finishing DFL in the Western Conference. It didn't stop Charlotte from being almost DFL in the Eastern Conference. And so what you're doing is this product of the NBA, the draft almost sends the best players to the worst places. And then they're supposed to turn it all the way around. That's very little of that happening anymore. They thought Patrick Ewing would be the savior back then when they implemented the lottery draft, and it hasn't really hasn't borne out that way. And so what I'm saying is each draft needs to be looked at for its attributes and its weaknesses. Each draft needs to be looked at for what type of players are there available to actually make, help, and be NBA players for over a 7 to 10 year period. That's a metric, right? That's a good draft pick. If the person doesn't make it through camp and gets ignited in the G League, that's not good. Okay, you only have 2 picks. I think the NBA would do really, really well to go to 5 or 6 rounds, really expand the draft a little bit, and draft more players. Let teams draft a little bit more regionally as well, too, I think. I'd like to. It used to be 10 rounds. I'd have no problem going out to 8 rounds at all with the NBA. Right now, they make 2 rounds seem like it's 47 rounds. They take 2 rounds and stretch it out for 47 days. They got 20 seconds. 20-second timeouts, 30-second timeouts for the general managers. They got 15 minutes in between each pick. I mean, it's just crazy. You have all year to figure this out, folks. Get your picks. If somebody takes the guy in front of you, take who you had next. It's not that complicated. So they could certainly condense it, move it down, but I'd like to see them go into 4 and 5 rounds. I'd like to see it happen. All right, so what we wanted to do is to say it's not as bad as everybody thinks. And there's some quality and there's some value in this draft. And so what I'm going to do right now is we're going to take out, and what we're saying is that, and what everybody else is saying, and we'll stipulate too, is that there are some good foreign players that are going to come into the draft, possibly going to be drafted number 1. As we get closer to the time when there will be an actual draft in June, when we get closer to the time when we know the exact order of the teams who'll be drafting and who'll be selecting, we'll give you some more information about the foreign players and some of the players that are outside of what we call the NCAA Combine. Okay, the G League is no longer, they're blowing that up because the NIL killed the G League. People don't want to realize that, but they did. They killed it with the NIL. Nobody wants to go play in the G League for $60,000, $80,000, $90,000 when you can stay in college and get $2 million. So I think it's an interesting dynamic going on right now in that kind of pro-amateur triangle, which they're trying to blur the lines of every single day. But I wanted to give you my assessment, not in any particular order, but just to settle down everybody who thinks this is going to be such a terrible draft. I wanted to put this up on Twitter, but it's really hard because you would have to do it over several tweets, and I will. But you just have to say, are there 30 good players that could be drafted in this draft that might help an NBA team? And I'm only going to give you NCAA players right now, okay? And we're going to run through them. And these are in no particular order. Zach Edey, number 1, Purdue. His numbers are ridiculous. And last year in the draft, we talked about a gentleman by the name of Trace Jackson Davis that we were very high on, thought he could be a real steal for somebody. He was taken almost dead last in the draft, like 59th pick overall in the draft. And right now for the Golden State Warriors, he's proven out to be an excellent rookie pick, maybe the best second-round pick this year. Okay? So when we tell you that we like people, it's not that we're trying, it's what we're doing is looking at their record of achievement and accomplishment, because the best predictor of future performance is to look into the past, to see what has happened in the past with that person, to see. Nobody has put up numbers like Zach Edey over the course of college basketball in a really, really long time. He has been absolutely dominant. To say that that doesn't convert and that doesn't translate to an NBA situation, I hear you. I hear you. But I'm not listening all the way because I've got this young man on my draft board, and I think he's really, really good. I don't know exactly where it's going to fit out because we're going to see. But right now, Zach Edey is a lottery pick on In the Zone draft board. We're going to say it. And this is what we do. We make bold statements. We told you Trace Jackson Davis was good. He's better than 40 of the other people you drafted last year.
Yep.
He's better than 45 of the other people you drafted last year. And we told you in the 59 spot that this young man could be a really good player. And so we just think that we validate some of this stuff by looking at the past performance. Very few people have dominated. And they're looking at some of these other young men being drafted before him saying, oh, well, their NBA potential is, well, why aren't they doing it right now then? That's what I say. Why aren't they doing what he's doing right now?
Yeah.
I'm going to go with Zach Edey as a lottery pick. Donovan Clingan, the big man of Connecticut, absolutely has changed the college dynamic right now as far as attacking UConn at the basket. It's not easy to do, and the big man is one of the main reasons for that. Terrific shot blocker, very good skill set. And when you look at big men, here what I'm going to tell all you NBA execs, okay, look at two things. Number one, can they run the floor? Can they catch the ball? That's the two things you want to know about them. Everything else can be taught, but you can run the floor, and do they catch the ball? Those are the two things you want to know with a big man in the NBA, and Clingan can do all of those things. I'd like to see him work on his shooting a little bit from the perimeter if he wants to be a 15-year NBA guy. I think he's going to have a long NBA career, but I'd like to see that happen. Kyle Filipowski from Duke. This is 7'4" with Edey, 7'4", 7 foot with Clingan, 7 foot with Filipowski. Duke, he's been there 2 years. He might be ready. I thought him staying back one more year didn't hurt him, and I thought it might have helped him deliver a little bit better product to the NBA. I think he's a good player. He's going to be solid, and he's going to have a good career in the NBA because he's 7 foot and he bangs and he likes to get around. So I think that's, right there off the 1, 2, 3. Those are 3 solid picks right there that I think are going to have good, long NBA careers.
Sure.
Cody Williams, 6'8" from Colorado. He's young. He's mercurial, but he just has oodles of talent. Really, really good player. Dalton Connect, we're going to make him our Porta Potty Player of the Year, I think. I think we did. And in the Porta Potty Player of the Year, there are some good stories there. There are some good stories. Came out of Northern Colorado. Now he becomes all SEC. And right now, will he get drafted? Some people are talking about him being number 1. Some people are talking about him being in the top 7, top 8. I think you'd have to give him some consideration, but I am not as high on him as I am on some of the other players here, just for different reasons.
Yeah.
Number 6, Reed Shepherd, 6'6", out of Kentucky, freshman. They'll wait to see if he returns. I think right now it'd be probably beneficial for him to turn pro because his numbers are good and people are looking at him in the right spot, in the right places in this draft, and I think he would benefit most likely from coming out right now. Our Providence Friars fans, Devin Carter, 6'5", guard, can shoot it, can handle it, can do a lot of things. I think he'll wind up in the late first round somewhere. P.J. Hall, 6'10", from Clemson, another big that's had an amazing college career at Clemson. Amazing. And what I think you want to look at also is he's very highly skilled. Very highly skilled. That'll translate well to the NBA. Yves Missy from Baylor, 6'11", long, shot blocker, more along in the Derek Lively mold, but Derek Lively's doing really good stuff. We told you about Lively last year. This is a gentleman that I would really give some really hard looks to, and I've seen some people really go there. Stephen Castle from UConn.
Yeah.
He's such a great player on such a great team that he blends a little bit. But I would, if I was an NBA general manager and I was in a lottery situation, I'd be looking very, very, very hard at this young man. All right, Isaiah Collier, 6'4", out of USC, was very, very highly talked about, bantered about in the early preseason. Didn't have the great season that I think everybody was looking for. I don't know that I'd put him in the first round. I want to see more of him, but we'll have to take a look at that. Early on, people were talking quite a bit about that. I just don't know. Rob Dillingham from Kentucky, he's a bucket. He's what they refer to in the game as a bucket. Give him the ball, he's going to score. He's about a 6'3" version of Carmelo Anthony. I don't know that his game translates all the way to the NBA because he is 6'3", plays the 2. Some of those defensive matchups in the NBA are going to be really, really difficult. This is a gentleman last year who went to camp and then returned to the University of Virginia, Royce Beekman. He's a guard, a lead guard, got some good size. I was a little disappointed in his play this year. So I want to see him go back into the combines maybe because I think last year I probably would have had him in a late first round, maybe early second round. But right now, I don't know if he gets drafted. And that's what when you make these comparisons draft to draft, this one could be a little deeper. This one could have a little bit more in it, not where you're going to have that Victor Wembanyama generational talent. I don't see that, but it could emerge. It could happen, but right now nobody really sees that saying, "All right, this is the guy." And I hear that, but if you look at some of the depth in this, some of the names I've read off, you're gonna
a lot of solid players in the top 10 picks.
Right. Maybe this is the year you trade the number one, and go get 2, 3, first round picks where you can go down into 10, 12, and 14 and get really good players and not have to go with a number one. That's right now I don't know who they have. They're all. I'd say the top 4 or 5 right now in a lot of the mock drafts are all European players. Okay. Dillingham, Dylan Jones from Weber State. I like this young man, 6'8". He's a very accredited player out there. I'm really interested to see what happens with him. I liken him much to the young man who was at Gonzaga a couple of years ago. Really, really good range on him, good fill, and has an NBA body right now. Kevin McCullough from Kansas got hurt at the end of the year, but he's got an NBA game. He's going to be a late first-round pick. He's going to be another one of Bill Self's up on the shelf pro prospects that have been there forever. I don't know what's happening with Dickinson. I think Dickinson can return for another year. He'll be another guy. Jacoby Walter, this young man was bandied about early on as one of the greats, number 1, number 2, number 3. Didn't have a great year at Baylor. And this is what I say about that one-and-done rule with the NBA. If this young man, Jacoby Walter, went into last year's draft, he probably would have been picked a lot higher than he will be this year. And he was very, very highly thought of. I don't know that he had the great year at Baylor that everybody was looking for. Certainly didn't dominate in a way that you would think an NBA one-and-done player would be able to. Oso Ighodaro, I'm very high on this young man. Freshman, 7-footer, out of Marquette. He can change shots. He can change games. And I think he has the NBA style where he gets up and down the floor very well. I question a little bit about his hands, and I want to see a little bit more of him in some tight catch situations. But he's a really good player, and he played with Tyler Kolek, who's one of the best point guards in the country right now. I think that's a good look for NBA people. You're going to get him late in the first round. That's not a bad pick. Mark Sears from Alabama, you'll see him in the Final Four, an elite shooter, really, really good three-baller. He can go. Cam Jones from Marquette, 6'6". Marquette has 3 players, Kolek, Jones, and Ighodaro, that could all get drafted in the first round. That'd be some testament to Shaka Smart and his program. Johnny Broome, I heard he just put his name in the portal. I didn't even know he had any time left, but with all of this stuff with COVID, you just can't tell anymore how much time they have. You have to wait one more year, and then it'll have all gone out. But Johnny Broome, I would say, if he was coming out right now, he'd be a pretty good pick. I'd say probably not a lottery, but right outside of it maybe. Cam Matthews, I like this young man. What an NBA body this young man has. He's got athleticism. He's got skill. Out of Mississippi State, Cam Matthews. Check him out. Joel Soriano started out at Fordham, ended his career with Rick Pitino at St. John's. 6'11", 7 foot. Not sure he's going to be in the first round, but he might be not a bad second-round pickup. I'm very high on this young man, especially with his NCAA tournament performance. It's what I like to see. I like to see under pressure in big games. What do you do? And Fale Dante out of Oregon, another 7-footer, tremendous length. It reminds me of Olajuwon a little bit. Certainly not Hakeem the Dream all the way, but certainly a project for an NBA team to look at. Maybe get him in the second round, maybe late first round. I think he's worth a first-round look, really. Amari Williams from Drexel, 6'10", very, very good player. Really, really going to have to get into the combine and do well because he has been at Drexel and not seen that really high profile, but he's pretty good. He's not bad. Okay, Ryan Kalkbrenner, very high on this young man. Creighton, 7-footer, lefty, shoots it, can handle it with range. Step way out on the big man. So if it's that nouveau European big man you're looking for, look at Kalkbrenner in the 27, 28, 29 spot of that first round. Nelly Joseph started out in New York at Iona with Rick Pitino and then said, I'm not going to go to St. John's, but I must play for a Pitino. He went to New Mexico. Had a really good career out there, too. I was watching him. I think he's worthy. I think he's worthy of getting some looks in the NBA situation here. Trey Alexander from Creighton, big guard, lead guard, definite NBA player prospect, no question about it. Carlton Carrington just threw his name in, the freshman out of Pittsburgh. He's very good. He's mercurial, got size, can handle it, can shoot it. He's kind of an NBA prototypical player right now, that typical player that they have in the NBA, where he's a wing and he can get a lot of things done. Terrence Shannon, very high on this young man, 6'7", out of Illinois. He'll be a first-round pick. I think possibly lottery, maybe he'll bust out of the lottery, depending upon how many of the European players get in there and crowd him out. Tristan da Silva, I'm going to throw this name out, as I did last year with Trace Jackson Davis. I'm really high on this young man. Tristan da Silva out of Colorado. He's 6'10", 6'9", can shoot, can pass, can handle, can do a lot of things, and he plays a European style of basketball, and he'll fit into an NBA team that's pretty good. I give you another one right here that I like too, Johnny Furphy. Okay, it's not Murphy, it's Furphy, all right? And he's pretty good. 6'9", out of Kansas, got a high engine, high motor, can dunk everything, runs the floor well. I like Tyler Kolek. I like Tyler Kolek as an NBA player because he has size, such a competitor. You know? Now, here's two guys that, and we're through 30 already, Pete.
Yeah, sure.
Those are through 30 names right there, and there's only 30 first-round draft picks. I'm going to give you two that I have at 33 and 34 here that are definitely first-round draft picks, maybe lottery picks. So if you're worried about this draft, I think you're going to see the depth of this draft is pretty good. Kashad Johnson out of Arizona, really good future as a pro, I think. He's got a great upside, and he's going to have an unbelievable ability to get to the basket, to shoot from the outside. He's got that nice mix of game, and I like it. Kashad Johnson, NBA people, take a look. He's pretty good. Jaden Ledee from San Diego State. We were very high on this man. The UConn Huskies packed him up on a sled and sent him home. But I think in the NBA Combine, when he gets to that NBA game, he's going to be pretty good too. Had great career. Great career out there at San Diego State. David Jones. He was at St. John's. He left, went to Memphis, a 6'6" guard. He can handle, he can do some stuff. He's not bad. All right, another good one for you here, folks. Colin Murray Boyles from South Carolina. He's big. He's a lot like DJ Burns. That's the next name I'm going to give you, the big DJ. Cinderella, the big fella. Okay, he's 6'9" this way, he's 6'9" that way, and if you stand on this side, you're on the wrong side. So you really got to look at him as an NBA prospect. I'll tell you something right now, DJ, and he talked about it. He hit his belly the other day when he was being interviewed. He says, I'm going to make all of this go away, as he gets ready, to move up to that next level, and that's something that's going to be absolutely paramount. Get yourself a trainer. Spend some of the NIL money you have on a personal trainer. Get ready. Take the next month and a half, get ready for those NBA Kai months. He could last in the NBA.
Somewhere an NBA coach is smiling at that comment.
I think they're gonna if you get him in the second round, you're getting a pretty good player, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know how that's all going to fit in the NBA either, though, because right now he's bullying people, he's muscling people, and that can occur on the college level. It doesn't always happen on the pro level. Doesn't always happen when Victor Wembanyama is throwing the ball into the third row. Okay. I'll give you two more, and then we'll close out with that. Jerron Holmes from Dayton. He was supposed to go into the draft last year. We had him pretty solid in that first round. I think coming back, it didn't hurt. It didn't help. I think he'll move up a tiny little bit, but I still see him on the outskirts of the lottery, maybe up into the back end of the first round. Kel'el Ware, 7-footer from Indiana. Another young man with oodles of potential, could really make himself a great NBA player over time. So that's where we're at with that draft right there. We'll put it all together for you later time and move and groove with that. But I think that's pretty solid.
Yeah.
I think there's some good names in there. And if you're an NBA team, what you have to do, and they know this, I'm not telling them anything they don't know, but what you have to do is you have to do really good evaluation of your current roster to say, what are our needs and are they fillable in this draft? And if they're not fillable in the draft, perhaps trading your picks is the way to go, because you can trade young for old in the NBA. You can trade young for experienced in the NBA, and probably come out, it's going to cost you probably a little bit more money because some of those rookie contracts are sealed, but it costs you a little bit more money. But at that time, it might be worth it, especially if you're a team that needs more than one player. If you're a team that needs 2 or 3 players. Who needs more than one player right now, Pete? The Lakers.
Yeah.
They need more than one player to make that team whole. The Phoenix Suns need more than one player. The Golden State Warriors need more than one player. So if you have any kind of draft position there, you might want to be looking to throw that position and try and get into the draft situation. Okay, 5 minutes, and we're going to roll here. This is the fastest hour in hoops, folks. This is like watching the old UNLV teams play. UNLV teams play because they go up and down the floor like that, and we go up and down the floor. And I look up at the clock, and it says 12:55. Every single week, I look up at the clock, and it says 12:55, and I'm going, how did we get to 12:55? But we got to 12:55, folks. Pete, I'll give you one trivia question before we go. I had something written here. I didn't get to cover it. But who do you think has represented the most Final Fours in NCAA history? All of our fans, close your eyes right now. Close your eyes. And before we do this, who has been to the most Final Fours? I do want to let you know that I'm a person that likes to conserve paper, and I'm not a wasteful person. So what I do is when I get old paper, I turn it over, and that's what I write my in the zone notes on.
Okay.
Okay? But what I want to tell everybody right now, so that they know, is what I'm writing my notes on exclusively are the flip side of the NCAA portal. They hand me the portal, I rip out the staple, I turn it over, and that's my in-the-zone material. So there you are. You have it right there, folks. Okay, let me jump into this. Pete, give me one quick guess. Who do you think has the most Final Four appearances in NCAA history?
North Carolina.
Oh, my God, Pete. I didn't give you that.
No.
I didn't hand that to you. Pete is
Think about what a blue blood there.
He's a savant. Pete's a basketball
that
savant.
was a lucky guess.
Some people work hard. Some people got to work every day. Pete just comes out. All right, here you go.
Lucky guess.
North Carolina, they have 21 appearances in the Final Four. Unbelievable. Second is UCLA, 19. Third is Duke. You're talking blue bloods. Here we are.
Yeah.
Duke is third, 17. Coach Krzyzewski, unbelievable. Kentucky right there in the 4 spot. Kansas in the 5. Ohio State with 11 in the 6. Michigan State closes out that bracket with 10. Louisville, 10. Michigan, 8. Indiana, 8. Connecticut, 7. Villanova, 7. Arkansas, 6. There were more, but that's about it right now. 2 things that in the NCAA tournament as we lead up to this, the NCAA, you got to pick up your game, fellas. Ladies, gentlemen, you got to pick up your game. The line in the women's game for the 3-point line, when they went back out and measured it again, they had the wrong measurement for the 3-point line in the women's game. Okay? And now you have the UConn Huskies, the #1 team in the nation, stuck in the Hartford airport last night because their plane had mechanical difficulties, did not arrive in the Final Four site today until 3:15 in the morning. All right? Let's get it together, folks. Let's get it together. All right? A lot of people out there paid a lot of money to make this thing run. It's logistics, folks. It's logistics. Okay. So those 2 things they got to get better at. Player of the year, in the zone, we're ready to go, Pete. I'm ready to go in the zone player of the year. We're ready to say it is Zach Edey. Zach Edey from Purdue, the big man, has not disappointed. Final Four, he's averaging double-double, and I'm talking 22 and 15. He's had 40 several times in the tournament so far. We love Zach Edey. Big fans. Coach of the year, who do you think, Pete?
In college basketball?
College basketball. We'll do the pros as they get closer to finality.
I think Hurley from UConn.
Me and Peter, copacetic. Danny Hurley. Woo, woo. Huskies are howling.
Yeah.
Got to be Danny Hurley. Got to be Danny Hurley. Rookie of the year, I'm going to go with Reed Shepherd out of Kentucky. Had a tremendous, tremendous year. And the porta potty transfer of the year, as we had alluded to before, is Dalton Knecht. Now, folks, you are going to see Saturday, you're going to see two really, really good basketball games. The question in both of those games is Alabama, UConn. Do you have something in your bag, Alabama, that slows this team down?
Yep.
And don't tell me it's something that you got the other day. They've been scorching everybody. So you need something in your bag that's going to slow them down. Get over to the Purdue game. It's going to be a lot about the big guys inside, no question. Zach Edey, DJ going at it, DJ Burns going at it. That's going to be a clash of titans, no question. But I think the DJs are also a dual-headed monster there. DJ Horn has been having a great ACC and NCAA tournament. Really, really good. And I think Braden Smith, the point guard, 15 assists in this tournament for Purdue, he's going to be a really, really key part here, because if he can get away from NC State's pressure, stay away from all of that stuff they're going to throw at him, I think it's going to be a great game. But it's shaping up. You're going to go right now. We're going to go bang, bang on Saturday. You come back Monday, and there it'll be. Folks, it's 1 o'clock. We're in the zone. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week. Pete and I will talk offline here whether we do Sunday or not. We're not 100% sure, but we'll get back to you and let you know. Follow us. We're rocking and rolling in the zone.